It was a funny thing, see, when I got into politics, my cousin one time was supervisor. He and I were pretty close, and I was only 17, and I helped him, in those days, helped him pick up people, bring them in to vote, you know. And he said to me, you know, one day he said to me, and we were Democrats, and he said to me, you know, and he worked, I think he was defeated once, and then he got elected. Of course, the Democrats at that time was only like 20%, 25% Democrats. And the rest were Republicans, it was strong Republicans. And the second time he ran, he beat the old supervisor that was here. And so he said to me one day, and he got married and he went out to Ohio. He left the second year, he left the supervisor job. He got married. He had difficulty with his mother, I guess, and he got out of the area. So he said to me, he said, I realize you're probably interested in politics, but let me tell you one good advice. He said, register as a Republican. It's going to be easier to get elected. I ran for town clerk. I was town clerk for 2 years. And then I turned around, and the fellows who were in office at that time, they worked against me. So I ran for supervisor. I was defeated the first time by 16 votes. And the second time I ran, I ran as a Democrat and also the independent line. Yes, when I got elected, there was only about 25% Democrats, and then I got defeated at that time when what happened. I told you like I did before. I put zoning in, and I wanted to get, because the people who worked on it worked hard at it, and I didn't want to prolong it just because of the election. So I said to the board, I said, look, we should not let this property go. We have to go out and campaign to the people and win this election, because otherwise it's going to be hard to get property again. So, and we won. But between the zoning and buying that property, I got defeated. But you know, I didn't feel bad about it, because that's something I wanted to do, and I'm always up front. I don't run behind the bushes about anything, you know. So I said, then I went back in, and totally with the town clerk. It was 27 years. I had a friend of mine, the manager who at the fair had passed away, and they were advertising for a new manager. And I had a friend of mine who ran a big farm up in Columbia County, and for a wealthy man, and all of a sudden he decided to be out of business, and this fellow was out of a job. And he was really down. And we were friends, he and his wife, for a good many years, with my first marriage, and continued with Louise, now the second marriage. So I took him around for a couple of days to see the directors and members. I didn't even know the directors and members. Figured this would be a good job for him. So this third day I was out, and he showed no interest when we went out talking to people. So the third day we were out, Louise was in Pennsylvania. I took him to Foster's for dinner. And so he went to John, and she said to me, his wife said to me, Tom, she said, you're wasting your time. She said, because he's not in the mood. He couldn't take care of it in the first place. Why don't you go after it? I said, I don't know anything about fair. And she said, you can do it. So I said, nah, no way. Louise was in Pennsylvania, so I really want to get out of politics, although I did love politics. And I had, had a farm going full blast, and so I came home that night and I went to bed, and I got thinking, well, gee, what have I got to lose? The fellow who was chairman of that committee was, he was the editor of Poughkeepsie Journal. And because I knew him when I was on the board of supervisors, he came in as a news reporter. So I called him up and I said, I see you're advertising for a new manager. He said, yeah. He said, well, are you interested? Well, I said, I've been toying with the idea. He said, well, send your resume in. So what do I know about a resume? Anyway, there was a fellow that lives up your way, up to Jackson Corners. He was his name was Dickman, and he worked for advertising in New York. So I knew him as a group that we used to be friendly together, and I said to him, one day, I said, can you write a resume up for me? Yeah. I still have it, and he said, sure. So he said, well, give me some stuff about yourself. A couple days later, he brought it back. I said, it was so good, I hired myself. A fellow who was a director of the fair, and he's also an insurance agent from Rhinebeck. It boiled down, it was 40 people that applied, and it boiled down to 3. And so they called me up, and I was also, at that time, I was treasurer. I was a director for the Red Hook, First National Bank of Red Hook. And we were down at the New York Convention, and the fellow who was the insurance agent, he was down. And in fact, they borrowed our room to get changed to go to the banquet that night. And we were called up 3 days after that to be interviewed at the Farm Home Center, and not knowing each other. Well, the day I went to Millbrook, who should come out but the guy from Brian Baker, the insurance agent. He said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "I guess the same thing you're here for." Because then I think, what chance have I got? I didn't know anything about the fair. I didn't know any directors. I knew a couple of directors, but I never knew them that well, right, by name. So I went to the interview, and a couple of nights later, I guess they were going to have a meeting. And Louise came home about 10 o'clock, and she said, "Did you hear anything?" I said, "About what?" She's about the fair manager. I said, "Don't be silly, I'm not going to get that." Anyway, 1 o'clock in the morning, the phone rang. And the president called me up. "Tom," he said, "Yeah." He said, "I just want to tell you that you're the new manager." "Who was that?" I said, I told her who it was. And I said, "What the hell do I do now?" But so anyway, I picked up, and that's how I got going, 28 years. I always knew where I was going. And when they would call me up and they would say, "Well, this Red Lewis is coming in," and I would tell them, and I would stand by it, and they always respected me. I was on, one time, 8 committees. I was chairman of the board 1 year, and I was assistant chairman, and the chairman was taken ill. He only served as chairman for 2 meetings. I served for the rest of the 2 years, so I managed the districts. And I was on the committee when we built the extension of the Dutchess County county office. The committee was split, and they wanted to go. Let's say 3 stories. And I said, "What are you talking about?" And so another fellow and I suggested to go 7 stories with it, right? Well, we compromised and got 5. Well, before the place was filled, they had to go outside already because they did. I was on the sheriff's committee when we put the first addition to the jail. I wanted to take it out of the city of Poughkeepsie to buy 50, 60 acres. "Oh no, we gotta keep it in Poughkeepsie, Well, see what they got themselves tied into right now. And I was on the Dutchess County Airport. We went to, I was chairman of that committee when we went to the first 5,000-foot runway. I served on our national board. I served on as a committee chairman. I represented the whole Eastern Coast, 12 states at the fair. And I served for 3 years. I enjoyed the public. I enjoyed I was always well respected. I always, whether they didn't like my decision, if I told you yes, it was yes. I always liked people. I get along with most people. And that's the way I am. And it's like right now, they want me to stay longer. I said no, because I'll be 87 years old in September. But I feel very bad for my people working for me from 15 years to 24 years. You don't hear much of that. And they were all good to me, and I was good to them. So I do know a lot of people. And I do like people. Anyway, I had a very interesting life, and I worked hard at the farm. I always worked hard all my life, and still do. But I've always felt that, and that's only my thinking, that I don't think we were put on this earth to do nothing.